When a part of your financial strategy is out of tune, your long-term goals, your retirement savings, and your legacy can all suffer. With many years of experience in the financial industry, Daniel provides his clients and prospects with the information they need regarding Social Security, retirement income planning, wealth management, and much more. Listen in as we address your financial and provide helpful solutions to put you on the path to achieving your retirement goals. Your money and your plans in perfect harmony. And now, here's Daniel to help you find out how to be financially tuned.
Good morning and welcome to Financially Tuned with me, Dan Wendell, owner of Dolphin Financial Group. We have a special guest with us today who I'll introduce in a moment. Thanks for tuning in. Today's topic is going to be final expenses, burial expenses, and the financial implications of them, or the finances behind that. It's a delicate topic, but it's something that most people have to face in this world at some point in their life. And we're going to make sure that you get your questions answered, and I get my questions answered because it's a topic that I address with all my clients. And I get a lot of questions that I don't necessarily always have the answers to, but I bring in an expert, and that's why we have people on the show to help us with it. So if you want to join the conversation, we're going to be live on Facebook, hopefully. I'm looking at it. I think it's live. We'll see. You can also call in today. I'm going to give you the number right now so you can write it down and call in with your questions for me or my guest. The number is 727-441-3000. My guest today, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, but today's topic being about funeral, burial, final expense. Who better to bring in than someone that is the president and CEO of Curlew Hills Memorial Gardens right here in Clearwater. Keenan Knopke is going to join us today and answer some questions for me. I'm going to let him start by introducing himself. Keenan, thanks for coming into Dolphin Financial Radio. Please let us know who you are, what you do, and how you're doing today.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor to be here. What I do is I run North County's most beautiful cemetery, funeral home, and crematory. I'm a native Floridian. I grew up in Tampa. I've never lived anywhere north of Orlando. I wanted to be a professional golfer many years ago and thought that was the end all to everything. And one day my dad said I needed to get a job because he was tired of financing me on the golf course. So
golf is not cheap.
Golf is not cheap.
A cheap hobby.
And I wasn't good. I wasn't as good as I thought I was. But anyhow, fortunately he owned a cemetery. And he told me I could either work for him or work for somebody else. And I went to work for Dad and found that working for Dad wasn't as easy as I had imagined. First day there, he put somebody else in charge of me and told me, go out and start digging graves, and we're going to teach you how to do it. And so I started literally in the hole digging a grave first day on the job and have been in the industry ever since.
Welcome to the industry. Here's a shovel, right?
Exactly.
That's baptism by fire right there.
It was, and for a kid that hadn't done that type of work before, only played golf, it was a day-changing, life-changing experience.
You learned you had some muscles that you didn't know existed.
Oh yes. And I think back on that now, and when my wife and I work in the yard, I find those muscles again, even to this day.
So Curlew Hills Memorial Gardens, very large in terms of the amount of business you do, very prominent here in North County, and you're right on Curlew Road.
We're right on Curlew Road between Belcher Road and County Road 1, about a mile and a half west of US 19.
And, I go there quite often, believe it or not. I don't have any family there, but we go with my kids, with the Cub Scouts, and put the flags on the grave sites for the veterans, and we love that. Beautiful facility.
Well, thank you.
Inside and out.
Thank you. We do a lot of community events in our property, Veterans Day, Memorial Day, candlelight service in December, and the largest is our 9/11 memorial service.
Yeah, that is a big service, and you have your own special spot on the grounds for 9/11.
We have a magnificent 9/11 memorial. We acknowledge everything that occurred that morning. There's twin towers, there's a reflecting pond, there's an eternal flame. It's about a 150-pound piece of steel from one of the towers It, from looking at it from the road, looks like it's floating between the two towers. Everyone that passed away that was on duty in the NYFD or NYPD that day are acknowledged by name. Even the one canine fatality that is not acknowledged in New York that died in one of the towers. It was a canine on duty, was placed in a crate while the officer in charge went to investigate, and they never got back there. But he's acknowledged there as well as people in Shankstown that died there, in Washington, and so forth. It's a magnificent memorial, and I'd encourage everybody to stop by and visit it.
Yeah, so if you have children that weren't around during that experience and you want to give them a lesson or two on that topic and bring it back, this is a good place to go to reflect on it, I'm sure. Okay, so, Curlew Hills Memorial Gardens, it's a topic that people don't want to talk about. I'm sure you get that all the time, but we are here to talk about it. Basically, you're a cemetery. You also have a pet cemetery. You have the memorial. They call it Memorial Gardens. So what basic services do you provide? And then I'm going to start asking you some financial questions about it.
Okay. Basic services we provide is anything involving remembering a loved one, whether it be a pet, whether it be a human, whether it be the brother-in-law you really don't like. We're there to help you through the process. And the process is remembering them, how they want to be remembered, how you want to remember them. Whether it deals with cremation, whether it deals with burial in our cemetery or in somebody else's cemetery, it really doesn't matter. If it involves shipping somebody to North Florida, to New York City, or halfway around the world, we're there for you. We handle all those details.
Have you seen, obviously Florida's a unique state. We've grown. I think we surpassed New York in terms of population. A lot of people say it's a transient state. You've grown up here, and you've seen the population demographics change. Has your industry changed? Has Curlew Hills changed? What's going on there and who they see and serve?
It's changed. Curlew has always been in the tourist side of the county. When you get in the coastal counties, Pinellas, Pasco, Sarasota, Manatee, and so forth, there's always tourists there. It's a transient area and where people spend half the year there. Sometimes they move there to retire and never leave, other than after they've passed away. There's a lot of changes in those areas. As far as the industry is concerned, it's changing, but it's a slow change. This industry historically didn't change forever, and now that is starting to occur. But it's not something that everything's going to change overnight and go away, and it's going to be on Amazon or something.
Right,
like
we're
that.
not going digital here.
No, we're not going digital.
Bitcoin's not really affecting you at this point.
No, it's not.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you some financial questions because this is a financial show. And if you're listening and you want to ask a question of Keenan or myself, here's the number again, 727-441-3000. And, I'm going to ask you some questions that I get a lot. And one of the biggest questions is when I'm dealing with someone, a family, who are planning for their retirement, and they're saying, okay, we want to plan for the rainy day, we want to plan for income, when should I take Social Security, how much do I need to invest and where? And then one of the questions that comes up a lot is, well, I ask them, do you want to leave a legacy to your kids? What do you want to do with your money when you pass? And one of the questions they always seem to ask me is, well, how much does it cost to bury me? Like I say, do you have your funeral planned? And no one likes that question. No one wants. I'm sure you've got to ask it every day because that's what you do, but no one wants to do that. Some people do, but most people do not want to think about it. But they do want to know how much it costs so they can kind of plan for it. So my question to you is, what does this cost?
And Dan, the answer is it depends upon what you want to do.
It depends on what you want to do for sure. I always use that one. But in general, we're talking a range.
In general, cremation, as an example, people think, well, it's a lot less expensive if I'm cremated, so I want to be cremated. Well, not really. When you get down to cremation, you can do as little as you want to do or as much, and it can actually end up costing more than a traditional burial. Through us, a basic direct cremation is $2,700. You can pay more for that in this county. You can pay a lot less for that in this county. A lot depends upon your comfort level of your provider. If you're a price shopper and you're looking for the best deal, meaning the lowest price, before you make your decision that a particular firm is the one you want to go to, first thing I'd tell you is to drive there. Go in the door and talk to them. Make sure you're comfortable with what they're telling you. But I'd also tell you to go shop other people too, not just phone shop. Take the time to seriously walk around, ride around and look. When you buy a house, you go and you look at models, not one model.
Right.
When you buy a car, you go and look at different cars at different dealers. When you're buying a mattress, it doesn't matter. You look around. There's nothing wrong in doing this exact same thing in our business, and we encourage it.
Do you feel people are shopping? Do you feel a lot of people are?
They're shopping because they don't know what they really want, and they don't know what to expect. We encourage people to shop. And if somebody tells you they've got the best deal and it's the only deal today or tomorrow and it's going to go away, run from those people as fast as you can.
Those are the typical red flags I warn people about. Don't buy the car because it's going to go away, or the house because you're getting bullied into it. But you made a point there. People don't know what they want. And that's a good answer. It depends, because you might say, I just want a cremation, and then I want to take the ashes and I want to spread them throughout the islands of Hawaii or something like that. And first of all, can they do that? I don't know if that's even allowed. You may not know. I don't know.
Every state and every community are different. I can tell you, and I think when we first talked, I told you a story about my mom. My brother and I and sister grew up in this industry. My sister worked out of the industry after a few years. When my mom got ill, we all asked, Mom, well, what do you want done? When you pass, what do you want to do? And each of us, because we lived in different parts of the country, got different stories, as we found out after she passed away. When she passed, my sister told me, Mom wanted to be cremated, and you need to get that done immediately. And I looked at her and I said, I won't use her name because she may be listening. I said, look, that's not what she told me. And there was a stalemate there for about 10 seconds. I said, look, nothing's going to happen real quick anyhow, so let's not worry about it. Let's call our brother and tell him Mom passed. And after talking to him for a minute or two, I asked him, did she tell you what she wanted done? And his response was, do we have a problem?
Do we have a problem?
Well, as it turned out, she had told us all exactly what we wanted to hear, which is not the right answer.
She told you what you wanted to hear, not what she really wanted.
Well,
she wanted you to be happy.
She wanted us all to be happy, but she wanted us to be comfortable with whatever we were hearing. The good side of it was, we got along. We got along good. And we were all able to do what she wanted and, in essence, meet our needs. The thing that I do tell people, though, at this point, after our family experiences, don't get your kids involved.
Really?
No.
All right, hold on. Let's explore that. Don't get your kids involved in what? In
making your arrangements on a before-need basis. When the death has occurred, they're going to be there.
Of course, right.
They're naturally going to be there because they've come into town, they live around the corner, whatever. They're going to be there. But when you're thinking about making pre-planning arrangements, don't get them involved. You don't get them involved when you and your husband go to buy a car or to buy something else. That's y'all's decision.
Right.
Get what y'all want done. Then tell them about it, because their opinions are totally different than yours. Their circumstances are totally different than yours and your husband's. It's your money. Use it the way you want to do it, and remember yourselves the way you want to be remembered. They will accept it. They may not agree with it. They'll accept it because it's coming from you.
I think, Keenan, you're making a point that is counterintuitive to a lot of what I say, which is you got to get your kids involved in your planning. But it makes so much sense now that I think about it. My own family, I'm a youngest of 4 brothers, and my parents didn't arrange their final expenses until I think 2 years ago or last year. And when they told us this is what we're doing, some of us, I'm not going to name names because my brothers do listen, some of us were like, okay, good, yeah, thanks. Thanks for setting it up because that's a headache. The 4 brothers, we all have, I'm sure she told us what we want to hear. But there were some of us that said, how could you have done that? That's so expensive. What a waste of money. Why would you? We could have done it. The price shoppers in us. You could have done it for so much less. Or, you sure that you did it? And the next thing you know, we're questioning their decision, but they already made it, and so there was no debate, and we've all accepted this is what's going to happen. And so when the time comes, it's going to be no. What did mom want? It's already planned for it. And what my mom effectively did and my dad effectively had done, they made their own decision. They didn't ask for input. They just did it because they're a different generation. They probably have different desires than we do. So who best to make their own decision but them? While they have their faculties, I might add. Do you find that most people actually come to you to pre-plan, or do they come to you at time of death saying, now what? Is there like a breakdown? Do you know?
About half of our customers, or a little over half, come to us in advance before the death has occurred. And that can be years in advance. It can literally be hours in advance. But they come and get information. Mm-hmm. We're an information source. If people want to buy from us, that's down the way. We want them to be educated. We want them to understand everything that's involved and whatever they're going to do, so there aren't any surprises down the way. And if they decide to say, we've got the information, we want to go home and think about it, that's the best thing from our standpoint they can do. They go home and think about it, not go home and get the neighborhood community involved or
right.
their kids.
Right.
They need to go home and think about it between themselves to see if it's really the right thing for them. It's a big decision. I mean, if you're talking just, as I said earlier, direct cremation at $2,700, $2,800, you're all of a sudden talking about $5,000, $6,000, and it can just go right up from there. And I know one of your questions may be, well, how much can it go? There's a limit, don't get me wrong, but everybody's idea of what it should cost or a budget is theirs. It's their wallet. It's their money. They need to spend it where they feel it's prudent, not the kids, not the good little neighbor next door who did it 23 years ago for a third of the cost.
Right, yeah.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Why would you spend more than that? Well,
yeah.
you paid for it 20 years ago.
Exactly. They need to be remembered the way they want themselves remembered.
We have a phone call. On
Jerry.
Jerry, welcome to the Dolphin Financial Radio. What's your question? Who's it for? Oh, no, Jerry, not there?
Hi, Dan. How are you?
Okay. How are you, Jerry?
I'm doing great. How are you, Keenan?
Good morning, sir.
I have a question. I take care of my daddy is about 85 years old. He's stubborn as a mule. You can't blow it out of that with nickel anytime you try. And in the end, in the future, at some point, it's going to fall upon me to make some decisions regarding his after-death services. I'd like to make these decisions before the event happens. I really don't want to make the decisions under duress. But I don't have the money to pay for this. It's going to wind up coming out of my inheritance from him. So how do I handle that? Are there options for me to set something up with the anticipation that it'll be coming out of his inheritance? Or would you allow me to set up a price without being to pay now? Is frankly what I'm asking.
Jerry, it's a question that we hear quite often. First of all, the first thing I would encourage you to do is select a provider and go visit with them and make sure that they fit what your intentions or your dad's intent or what your intentions are for your dad. Secondly, ask them what their options are for payment. Do they require payment all at once? Do they allow monthly terms in advance? I can tell you that generally very few firms, if any today, are deliver service today, pay me later. If there's an estate involved or insurance involved, then there's ways to verify that the money is really there. The concern of any provider today, whether it's your doctor, your financial planner maybe, anybody, is how am I going to get paid? Because firms upfront a lot of costs in the beginning. So in case of your dad, it's going to be part of your inheritance. Well, is there going to be an estate? Is there value in the estate? There's ways to determine that in advance. And some firms will work with you, some won't. We'll work with you as long as we're able to get a comfort level that the money's going to be there when the service is needed.
Does that answer your question, Jerry?
That does make sense. So in general, when I shop around, someone should at least be willing to have these conversations with me, if I'm hearing you correctly, Keenan.
They should be able to have that conversation with you without a doubt. And if they say, don't worry about it, we'll take care of that when something happens, that's not where I'd be going, because they have no plan for it. And they're going to be looking at you at that point saying, sorry, can't do anything till you pay me.
It's good.
I understand.
So you said your dad is stubborn. He doesn't want to plan ahead? Is that
Stubborn as a mule. Stubborn as a mule.
So you want to? Can he arrange for his dad? Is that possible?
Sure.
You can arrange for someone else.
Sure. You can buy anything for anybody. Generally, it's for you do it for your loved one. Okay. Doesn't mean that whoever's you bought the plan from is going to provide the service until they pass away. Obviously, if you're the legal next of kin, then you're going to release that person when they pass away to that firm. If for some reason there's a family dispute and they get released to another firm, generally that money is refundable.
Okay. Answer your question, Jerry?
It does. Keenan, thank you very much. And Dan, thank you, and have a great day.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, that's an interesting question, Keenan, is this idea of parents not willing to go about it, or even better question, financially speaking, a lot of boomers are in the sandwich generation. They got their own financial problems. They may not have the money to pay for the burial of their parent. It may be coming from a life insurance policy. It may be coming from the estate, which you can't get at necessarily immediately. If you don't plan right, you might not have enough cash to pay the funeral home or the crematory or wherever you got to. What do you do in that case? You mentioned you can verify assets, but you got to protect yourself so you're not providing services for free here. I
Sure.
get that.
You can verify life insurance. That's easy to do. If they say, well, it's going to come out of the estate, well, who's the lawyer that's going to handle that? Who made up the will and so forth? How do we get in touch with them? Or can you have them call us? And we've asked for letters from lawyers before that said, there's plenty of assets here. Here's the plan on the estate. This is when I expect probate to be filed, the executor to be appointed and so forth, and then they can write checks.
And you're willing to work with people at this point to say, we understand you don't have free cash on hand. We just show us where the money is and we'll make it happen.
Yeah.
You're not going to be.
It's the family that says, oh, don't worry about it. Or, no, I'm not going to give you that information. Or, we haven't decided on all that. We've got to figure it all out. No, that's not. We'll get real hedgy, as will any firm will be, because, again, we're up front a lot. At some point, we've got to understand where that's coming from.
Well, I do deal with a lot of families that say, how much does it cost? And I say, as before, depends on what you want. Let's say you want to allocate $20,000 toward this. That's what you want to do. And so they buy a life insurance policy. They name their only child the beneficiary with the intent that that's going to be used for a funeral. Could they plan in advance at that point, map it out with Curlew Hills Memorial Gardens and say, here's what I want, ticket price, $18,000, whatever, lock in that price somehow so that when they do die, they say, hey, son, I got $20,000 sitting in life insurance. That's designed to go to pay for this. This is how much it's going to cost. Here's what I want. Everything's mapped out. Is that Does that make sense? Is that how you would do it?
That's excuse me. That's not how I would do it.
Okay. Tell me how to do it.
I would ask you to start making payments.
So do a prepaid funeral.
Exactly. Rather than tying up insurance. Because there's other things that are going to come up between the day you buy that insurance policy to whether it's 2 months, 6 months, 10 years later that are going to get in the way that you're going to need cash for as well.
Right.
Start making monthly payments on what you want. Firms, cemeteries, funeral homes, crematories, we all sell these products. We don't charge any interest. Some firms do. But start making those monthly payments. Pick out what you want. Make those decisions. You and your husband, you and your spouse, whoever, make that decision. Get it on paper. Get it paid for. The most, and this is going to sound, I won't say corny, but it's as true as it can be. The most loving thing you can do for your family is to do this in advance. Because when you pass away, everybody's emotions are going to be on go. Lost a mother, lost a dad, lost a brother, whatever it is. They're going to be on go, and everybody's going to be on edge. And when they can call you and say, well, Mom said they had a plan there. What did they get? Well, come on in. Let's go through it. And you start sitting there going through it, and you say, when they did it, it cost $10,000. And they say, oh, wow, that was a waste. Well, and maybe in your mind it was, but today when it costs $15,000 and you need to write me a check, you all of a sudden say, whoa.
So you can lock in the pricing.
Once you sign a contract and start making payments, price is locked. It's guaranteed.
Interesting. And you don't charge interest?
We do not charge interest.
Dolphin Financial Radio loves to hear that. Interest-free. I mean, that's what it's all about. You know, you're talking about trying to make sure you're taking care of their needs and what they want. You're not sitting there trying to get that extra nickel out of them because it makes your life easier when everything's planned in advance.
If you treat people like you like to be treated, it comes back to you.
And the golden rule. Okay, we're going to take a quick break here, and when we get back, we're going to talk more about the financial aspects of funeral and burial expenses with Keenan Knopke of Curlew Hills Memorial Gardens. You're listening to Dolphin Financial Radio. Stay tuned for more in a moment.
Good advice is sometimes hard to come by. That's why you should find a financial professional you can trust. There may not be such a thing as a perfect investment. Every financial choice involves trade-offs. It is helpful to have a financial professional on your side to help you organize your goals and have a better understanding of the pros and cons of any financial decision. At Dolphin Financial Group, we focus on working with you to meet your financial goals and provide the advice that can help minimize the hazards you may face. Give our office a call at 888-508-5935 or visit us online at dolphinfinancialgroup.com. There are 96 different months that you could file for Social Security benefits. There are over 9,000 combinations if you're married. But that's not all. There are advanced filing strategies that can also be used. By the time you factor it all in, there are over 20,000 calculations that need to be run to find the best way to file for Social Security benefits. Call our office at 888-508-5935 or visit dolphinfinancialgroup.com to request your complimentary Social Security maximization report from Dolphin Financial Group. You'll know exactly what to do and exactly when to do it. Legacy. Even the word leaves a lasting impression. Legacy planning is an important piece of your financial puzzle and an important part of what you will leave behind for future generations. That is why we give our clients the From the Heart Journal and your guide to IRA and legacy planning. From the Heart Journal was created for the benefit of your family and loved ones. It will let you document and explore future financial wishes. The guide to IRA and legacy planning will help protect your retirement assets from mistakes. Both of these helpful resources are available in the Retirement Toolkit. This toolkit will give the information you need to help secure your retirement. To request your copy, all you need to do is visit our website at dolphinfinancialgroup.com or call us at Dolphin Financial Group, 888 508-5935. Get your copy today.
And welcome back to Dolphin Financial Radio. We're here today with the president and CEO of Curlew Hills Memory Gardens, Keenan Knopke. He's got some insight on the industry, and it's right down the street. A lot of people probably drive past it that are listening right now without realizing it. It is pretty big, expansive. You don't realize it from the road. It goes back quite a ways with some beautiful spots there on the gardens. So before the break, we were talking about paying for this and, pre-planning and prepaying. If anyone else has a question, you can call in 727-441-3000. So before the break, you said, I said, wouldn't it be good if people had life insurance allocated for this? And you suggested it might be better to pre-plan and prepay. Prepayment, to me, makes some sense because you're budgeting it. I like the idea of prepaying for a life insurance policy because that money is now flexible. You can go wherever you need it to go. And your suggestion was, yes, it is. Why not keep it really flexible so that you can use it for the unexpected expenses that you may not realize that are there? You might have family from out of town that needs to fly in and they need money and so forth. Why not take money allocated specifically for the burial and just pay it directly to whoever you're going to use? I'm assuming that works well for the say Curlew Hills because you're getting that cash flow. You can know what needs to be there and have it pre-ready to go, so there's no scrambling. It makes sense for the owner or the purchaser because they don't have to think about cutting a big check at the end. Right. I'm assuming if someone's prepaying and then they die midway, there's a balance that could be paid, but you'd rather that than have a lump sum due at the time because it just makes it a little bit more difficult for the surviving family member.
Well, think about it. It's easier to write a $5 check than it is a $10 check.
Yes.
In simple math. The other thing that we haven't touched on is when you give me the money, where does it go?
Where does it go?
Okay. For any time.
It doesn't go with you.
No, and when you pre-plan, there's certain requirements of Florida law that says where this money goes. As an example, if you buy a grave or a mausoleum crypt from us, 10% of that purchase price goes into what's called a perpetual care fund, which will provide for the care of the cemetery forever. When you buy a grave or a crypt, you don't get fee simple title to that property. You get the perpetual right of use, meaning it's yours forever to use for the intended purpose. The company still owns the title to it because we're required to maintain it per Florida law.
And you said there's a fund. Is that a state-run fund or is that you have a separate fund you're required as a company?
We're as a company, as one of 180 licensed cemeteries in Florida, give or take one or two, have what's called a perpetual care fund that is monitored by the state. They audit the fund. They see how we deposit and what income we take from it on an annual basis. And that fund is designed to grow and provide for the future care of the cemetery if and when it's ever sold out. The same thing on services. When you buy a service from us, we put 70 cents of every dollar into the service fund designated for you. The income from that stays in there to offset any future price increases so we don't come back to you and say, hey, Dan, I need some more money.
Yeah, inflation.
We're guaranteeing the price, but it also gives us cash to operate with, too.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then there's a merchandise fund. There's a fund for everything that are all separate, that are all examined or audited, not audited, but examined by the state of Florida Department of Financial Services.
Who is responsible for payment for burial? Let's say someone dies, they don't have any family. What happens to that? Or what if the kids say, I'm not paying for this? Do you know what happens in that case? I'm curious because some people say, I'm just going to have me buried in the backyard,
Well, you really don't do backyard burials anymore.
No.
Years ago,
maybe for pets? Not for
maybe for pets, but even there's an ordinance against that, but nobody goes, there's no pet enforcement agency
right.
that
No
runs
one's
around checking your backyard. If there's truly nobody, and generally when you go under some type of life care, end of life care or something, somebody sits down with you or comes to your hospital bed or whatever and says, who do you want to be notified? And they'll have that conversation. If they say, there's nobody, there's just nobody, then either the county will get involved and they'll ask that question, do you have arrangements with somebody, with a firm? Did you make your funeral?
Right.
Well, no or yes. And then from there, it'll go down a different trail. There's firms in each county in Florida generally that have a contract with the county to handle those types of services. In Pinellas County, as an example, it's been the decision of government here that everybody will be cremated unless it's against some religious religious preference that they've expressed.
Right. Okay. So cremation is obviously less expensive than a full burial, right?
It's less expensive. The cremated remains, when somebody's cremated, that's considered the final disposition by the state of Florida, meaning what happens after that is the government has no interest in that.
Okay.
If you're in a casket, then you're going to be buried in a cemetery somewhere. And once that burial occurs or placement in that cemetery occurs, that's the final disposition.
Gotcha. Okay. Going back to the cost now, because this is the financial show and I'm really in tune with this stuff. I see ads all the time for what I think are ridiculously low cremation costs. Like, what's going on there? Do you have any insight in there without naming names?
I would never name names. First of all, everybody knows what it costs to run their business and how much money they want to make or need to make. If it's too good to be true, the old saying is it's too good to be true. You heard me say earlier, go visit those places. Visit places that you say, that's way out of my range. Go visit and see what they're including in it. Mm-hmm. Same as the guy that says it's almost free. Go and see what's going to occur. Ask him, do you own your own crematory? No, I outsource that. Well, where's that? Well, that's 2 counties away or 10 blocks away. Well, can I go look at it? No. Well, I would tell you, you want to be able to do that. Whether you go and look or not, you want to know who has control of that because they're the ones that are going to decide when you're going to be cremated and at the same time, if you're going to get your remains back. Curlew Hills, we cremate for ourselves. We have our own crematory. We don't cremate for anybody else.
Do you find that cremation is becoming more popular?
Cremation in Pinellas County has been at about 70% for about 25 years.
70%?
Yeah.
For 25 years? I would not have guessed that at all.
Pinellas County has been the leader in cremation for all those years, just about in the state of Florida.
Wow.
Sarasota County maybe a little more now, but still again, we're in a retirement coastal area of Florida.
Yeah.
And you can follow it all the way around the state with probably the exception of Dade County.
Okay, that's interesting. I did not know that. So obviously you do a lot of cremations. What happens? They could choose to keep the remains at the memory gardens, or
they could
take the remains with them.
Sure.
What do people do, and what can they do?
They can do just about anything they want. With burial, as an example, you've got a time period that you got to do something. You pass away 2 days later or 3 days later, there's a service, and they're going to a cemetery somewhere or shipping north.
Right.
Cremation, options are all over the board. You can have the remains there, the deceased there for the cremation service in a casket or in a rental casket or in something else for the service, or you can have them cremated and have a memorial service or celebration of life 3 weeks later when it's more convenient. The question was, though, what do you do with the remains?
Yes.
We encourage people to place those remains in a cemetery somewhere. The Catholic Church, as an example, says they all need to be in a cemetery.
Right.
Preferably in a Catholic cemetery, but in a cemetery somewhere.
Right.
Not split. We encourage you to place them somewhere permanent. Many times we sit down with the kids. Dad passed away 4 or 5 years ago. Mom said, don't worry, I'm going to put Dad someplace permanently. Now she passes away and they come to us and say, you know where Mom put Dad? Our records indicate she took him home. Yeah. Oh, well, we're not sure where we're going to put Mom. I said, well, go home and look for a box.
Yeah, look for Dad.
Look for Dad. Look in the closet. Look under the bed.
Really?
Look around, and many times they'll come back and say, well, now we've got him. What do we do? And again, do you place it in the cemetery? We have niches, columbariums, and so forth. Or do you take it home? I'll tell you, again, I'll go back to my mom, who my family used to own a cemetery in Tampa. She's part of hers in a family plot there. There's part of her in Bluefield, West Virginia, where she's from, and another part of her in her church cemetery in Temple Terrace.
There you go. You could do that.
You can do all that. The most important part of the cremation process to me, obviously selecting the provider and so forth, but is the memory. Memorialize.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever you do, don't let your loved one, your worst brother that you hated all your life, don't let them go forgotten or become forgotten. Curlew Hills is on Curlew Road. We're 2 miles from the Gulf of Mexico and Honeymoon Island.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of people go down and scatter remains at Honeymoon Island. Beautiful place to do it. But at the moment they scatter them, when their grandkids grow up and want to ask, or their children ask, what happened to Grandpa? Where's Grandpa's grave? Because Johnny, my friend's gone. He's going to see his grandpa on Father's Day.
Yeah.
Where do you go? Do you go to Honeymoon Island and say, well, there he is? No. Put his name in a cemetery someplace. Best example in the world, Vietnam Memorial in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
Thousands of names, thousands. People go there by the thousands daily looking for names. They remember friends, they remember comrades, they remember buddies standing there looking at a name.
And they could do both.
And they can do both.
They could do both. I didn't realize you can throw ashes over at the Gulf of Mexico.
You can.
You can legally? I don't know.
Legally, you're supposed to go out at least 3 miles.
3 miles out. Okay.
Per the federal government.
Well, in the Gulf of Mexico, you could be only 3 feet deep at that point.
At that point, amazing. You could
be. You can almost walk out there. I wouldn't recommend it, though. Okay. Here's a kind of random question. I have a friend who makes pacemakers. I asked him, I told him you were coming on, and we were talking about cremations, and he didn't know the answer, and I didn't know the answer, and you may not know, but it's kind of a random question. What happens to someone's remains if they have medical equipment in there or gold teeth? Or it's kind of weird, but I thought it would be interesting to ask you. You may not know.
No, that's one of the questions that we ask people when we're making arrangements. Do they have a pacemaker or not, first of all? Because pacemakers can explode and cause a lot of damage. So we'll get permission from them to remove the pacemaker. Gold teeth are gold teeth. It's not valuable gold, even though there's been stories about it being real valuable. There really isn't a lot of value there. Everything that metal that's been placed in the body over years.
Like knee replacements, titanium.
Hips and so forth.
Yeah.
We recycle those. They do not burn. I mean, they go through the cremation process. We remove them afterwards when we're sorting the remains and recycle them. The money that comes back from that, because there's money involved, we turn around and give back into the community with different 501c3 charities, as an example.
That's excellent. You don't think about these types of things.
No, but I mean, it can get into some pretty serious money at times, and there's nothing that says you have to do that. We chose that because really it's not our money. It's the family's money. It's kind of hard to divide because it's all priced on value of gold or value of titanium on a day. We turn around and give it back into the community. Things like the Lind Fund, which is a cancer support group in Palm Harbor, and other things that don't come to mind real quick.
Well, we're running toward the end of the show. I thought maybe you could share with us a story or a common mistake people make, something people can learn from. I'm certain you have some pretty funny stories, some sad stories. Is there anything that comes to mind besides, obviously you told a story about your family, that's a common one, but Have you seen anything really crazy happen lately, or have you seen a lot? What's the most? How about this? What's the most expensive funeral or arrangement you've overseen, or
years ago, Dan? I'll give you most expensive, and it was where you make a common mistake in kind of judging people by their appearance. Had a family. I worked in Miami at the time, and a couple walked in our funeral home door, and said their son had been killed in an automobile accident, and they were just farmers. And you hear farmer's son, you're thinking, this is not going to be. It's going to be a nice service, but
modest.
Modest. Thank you. So one of our counselors took them on a tour of the grounds to select a grave, and they drove by this particular building, and it's what we in the industry will call a family mausoleum, a family tomb. It can be a variety of different names.
This is one of those standalone type things
buildings. They've got doors on them.
Yeah, doors. Yeah.
Yeah, it's for you, your family. Generally, there's an estate around it. Well, how much was one of those? Said a counselor at that point, and this was 20 years ago, said it's $250,000, and it'll hold 6 family members.
$250,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
I said, there's only 3 of us. What do we do with the others? And it's up to you. And just kept going. Counselor didn't get into it with much detail. They got back to the office, and family said, we're going to go home and think about it. We've seen some stuff, and we'll be back tomorrow.
Yeah.
And you wonder, okay, are they really even coming back?
Right. It could be price shopping or whatever. But
whatever.
That's good. You're giving people info. That's what you want.
Exactly. Next morning, they were back. And they said, well, can we go back and look at that building again? And counselor took them back, and they said, can we look inside? And they looked inside, and they came back out. We'd like to buy it. Well, you understand you have to pay for it. Yeah. And he kind of walk out to the car. So he walks out, not to the car, to his pickup truck. Comes back in with a little briefcase. He brought in $250,000 in cash that he had at home.
Okay.
That's one story.
Don't judge a book by its cover.
Don't judge a book by the cover.
To those listening out there, as a financial advisor, I suggest strongly that you don't carry $250,000 of cash in a briefcase.
And we were scared. We were scared to death to take it.
Right. It's just not natural, right?
Nope.
Where did this come from? Why?
The other thing, sad story, is when you get in a situation where ideas haven't been presented. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's on edge. And you see a family relationship amongst siblings and even parents deteriorate to the point where they start walking out of the room because they're not getting their way. Son 1 wants one thing, son 2 wants something else, mom wants something else. They're all maybe chipping in, and it gets to be where it's either my way or the highway. And we at that point say, time out, folks. Let us walk out of the room. Y'all talk about your family issues and resolve this. Or why don't y'all go home, talk about it, come back tomorrow, call us tomorrow, give us an update. Because those lines get drawn so hard that future relationships with each other don't exist. And it's everybody's fault and their finger point. Eventually finger points back to us.
Yeah,
only because
common enemy.
We're the one that's trying to follow all the wishes.
So people can. You don't have a family counselor on staff, do you?
No.
So the lesson there is, you've seen it way too often. Families just break down. I mean, we know this. This happens at Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
But when someone dies, and you have 4 different people pulling in 4 different directions.
And it's generally because they didn't pre-plan.
They didn't pre-plan.
If the parents can pre-plan in advance, if one parent's already passed away and there's one left, the survivor of that, they need to make their arrangements. Takes all that pressure off the kids down the way, and it lets their ideas get known, gives them instructions, they pay for it. There's no picking over, well, I want this, she wanted that, done. We're going to do what mom said. we're going to go forward and make our own arrangements doing what we want for ourselves.
You know, Keenan, we're out of time, but I want to thank you for coming in. I have to make a point here because that really drove home something there for me. I'm a big proponent of planning. I'm a financial planner, and I brought you here today to talk about the finances behind burials and funerals because people need to know this. They don't want to know.
Nope.
They can't avoid it. I haven't met anyone that has. But that point of just getting it out of the way and planning, not necessarily having the family input in it, make your own decisions, get it done because it's going to pay dividends later. When the family is in a time of need, total crisis, just like when 2008 happened, the stock market crashed, people made stupid decisions because they got emotional. Because the money was down, I'm down 30%, what am I going to do? I make a poor decision. Mom just died. What are we going to do? You know, who's going to take care of Dad? Where are we going to have the stupid decisions can get made. And you're not saying it's a bonanza for you because I got the. You're saying it's a nightmare because you want to help people, but if they don't have their act together, it's almost impossible to help them.
It's almost impossible, and no matter what you do, they keep questioning themselves, are we doing the right thing? Is this what they really wanted?
And so I invite people to give you a call. Just tell us your contact information. I mean, they're going to show up and you're going to give them info. They're not buying anything that day. They need to meet you or your staff and learn. Where can they go? Who can they call?
Our phone number is 727-789-2000, easy. We're on 1750 Curlew Road in Palm Harbor between Belcher and County Road 1. And feel free to walk in and ask questions. We're an information source that's there for you.
You have any upcoming events or anything going on?
Our next event will be Memorial Day. The end of May. And
makes sense.
We're looking forward to having about 500 or 600 people there, as we always do. And the Scouts the Saturday before, placing flags in the cemetery.
Right. I'll be there. I got the 3 boys doing that. Oh, one of them broke his arm, so maybe he won't. He'll be able to run around.
He'll be fine.
He'll be out there. So thanks again. That was Keenan Knopke from Curlew Hills Memory Gardens. I keep saying that. I don't know why, but Curlew Hill Memory Gardens, a very big facility right on Curlew. Thanks for joining us today, Keenan. I think it was informative, and if anyone has any additional questions, feel free to go there, meet with them, or give me a call at Dolphin Financial Radio. The number is 888-508-5935, or go to dolphinfinancialgroup.com. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for listening to Financially Tuned. Don't pay too much for taxes or retire without a sound income plan. For more information, please contact Daniel Wendell at Dolphin Financial Group. Call 888-50